Well, non-league day is fast approaching now, a very busy time for everyone involved. And joining me now is Mike. And Mike, you play a big role with non-league day. Just how has the week been? I know it's been quite hectic.
It's been very hectic. I mean, obviously, everyone who is involved with non-league day in terms of running it and administering it does it on a volunteer basis. We all have full-time jobs, and it's quite challenging, but it's a labour of love at the same time. We wouldn't do it unless we believed it was a good cause and there was a good reason for doing so. And this obviously ramped up. We've had a lot of attention from the media. We've had a lot of clubs asking us for collateral they can put out there in terms of press releases. People coming to us for game suggestions, and it's really, really good to see such a kind of cooperative movement in football, where you've got the Premier League, the Football League, and non-league, even the amateur game, right down to literally park level, coming together for a single cause.
I was going to say it really is the case. I've noticed in the last couple of days you've got the big clubs in England all backing their local non-league side, and it is great to see.
Well, yeah, definitely. For the last couple of seasons, we've been really, really lucky that some of the Premier League clubs in particular have been very proactive in promoting games. One of the previous kind of highlights was Arsenal lending Boreham Wood their team coach for Boreham Wood's away games, because they have a very, very good relationship at a kind of business level. I think Arsenal play games at their grounds, their youth team and so on. But certainly, clubs like Everton have been putting stuff on their website and tweeting. Arsenal sent a tweet out to their 6.5 million followers saying, look, get involved. Here's the match finder. It'd be really good if any Arsenal fans could go and see a local game. And to have that kind of promotion from globally, clubs with global interest is fantastic for us. How that translates to people actually turning up on a day, we'll see. But if just a 0.1% went down, you could talk about a huge increase in net terms.
And obviously, it's an occasion where fans can go down, maybe for the first time. And I know, speaking to a lot of fans, when they do go down, they're actually very surprised just how good the quality is.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges non-league clubs face is to try and change people's perceptions of what non-league football is about. Historically, I think people have had this kind of very archaic image of non-league football of it being played on really, really poor, lumpy pitches in totally empty stadiums. It's all about hoofing the ball into an allotment behind the far goal. There's no kind of skill, there's no finesse there at all. And yeah, there's always going to be occasions where you have perhaps slightly, agricultural football, shall we say. But then, frankly, you see that in the professional ranks as well. It's changed a lot in terms of attitude off the pitch, in terms of how clubs approach it, even down in kind of step 4, step 5 of the National League system. It's changed in terms of fan interaction. There's a lot more noise now. You have a lot of these kind of ultras groups springing up. And to be clear, we're not talking about the ultras groups that have these kind of, really kind of aggressive political leanings. Really kind of, it's really ultras is being used in a kind of fun way for people to be, make a lot of noise and sing and have, flags at the ground. So it adds a lot of colours to the ground. And I think it's changed in terms of it's become a lot more professional. I think this has seeped down through the pyramid. Now the Conference National is effectively a professional division. I think the standards have kind of permeated down through the divisions. So I think anybody going will be pleasantly surprised, not only at the standard, but the atmosphere off the pitch as well, and just how much these clubs mean to people. And of course, if they can... Sorry, go on.
No, carry on, mate, by all means.
I was just going to say, and I think that the challenge then, of course, is to encourage people to go back again. If people just turn up on the one day and a club sees 100% increase in attendance, then fantastic. But I think in reality, always one of our kind of key objectives is to get people to go again. Not every week, obviously, but even just 3 or 4 times a year would be fantastic, make a lot of difference to the clubs involved.
And looking at non-league day, it really has been a case since its start. Year on year, it's growing, and it looks like that will be the case yet again.
We certainly hope so. It's very, very hard to kind of put any objective measurements around it. We do some basic analysis every single season, and it tends to increase the attendances overall by about 15%. But what probably needs to be stressed is that the clubs that put the most in tend to get the most out. Not always, but generally speaking. So there's been occasions where clubs have arranged free entry days or really plugged it in the local community. They've gone out to schools, they've put posters up in shop windows, they've given people incentives to come down. And those clubs have tended to see, in net terms, perhaps 75% to 100% increase on attendances on the day. There's an added incentive in that we have the FA Cup third qualifying round taking place. That obviously has its own kind of its own appeal. It's a globally recognised competition. People know about the FA Cup. If they see that their local club is playing an FA Cup game, rather than say perhaps, and I mean no disrespect to the league, but say a Northern Counties East League game or perhaps a Midland combination game or Midland Lights or whatever it might be, it's naturally people are going to gravitate towards that. It's got a kind of kudos behind it. So we're anticipating there'll be some very, very healthy crowds tomorrow. And time will tell, I guess. Time will tell, but I'm very confident, yeah.
And Mike, I know I love non-league football. I love going down to the different grounds. But just for people listening that maybe, are thinking, should I be going to a local game? Just what would you say to encourage them to go down?
I think for a lot of people, it's a chance to try something new. And it goes back to this thing I mentioned earlier about perceptions of non-league football. There are lots of things you could call out, like, it's cheaper, it's more accessible, you can chat to the players and so on and so on. But I think the one thing I really would like people to bear in mind for this year's campaign is non-league football, certainly below the Conference National, the National League National as it's now called, is almost exclusively run by volunteers. Without volunteers, the pyramid would collapse as we know it. And that would have ramifications for clubs further up the pyramid. If you look at the England team or the England squad for the Estonia game, I think 4 of those players have come through non-league ranks, be it youth or otherwise. So you cannot underestimate the importance of volunteers. And I think if people are going to do anything, then it's a celebration also of those people that help keep the game alive. It's the people who go in and sweep up at 8 o'clock in the morning on their day off. It's the people who write the programmes, the people who give up their time, trying to raise sponsorship for the club or on a fine, frosty February evening, they're sat there writing out a match report. And they're all doing it for the love of the game. And I think those people need to be celebrated. And I think if, aside from the kind of joys of the actual atmosphere and the clubhouse and everything else on the day, I think it kind of, by going to the game, you're kind of giving a little nod of recognition to the people that really do prop up our game in this country.
Well, Mike, let's hope that plenty of people get down to see some football, some proper football in the upcoming days. Thank you for your time today.
Thanks a lot.